Hi, welcome to Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Alan Rodbell of the Scottsdale Police Department with this Chris Pasal, our community liaison. How are we doing?
I've been a miss for so many years. It's wonderful. I'm good. How are you?
You've been a miss.
I've been miss Chris Pasal.
I don't know.
Long past that,
was PC this week. Okay, anyway, so what have we been up to? Our most recent Citizens Academy graduated.
Yep.
Right? How many people?
We had like 23 people.
Yeah, a little smaller class. I think it was the confines of our classroom, unfortunately, was smaller.
So we had to actually switch some stations around. So it worked out really good, though, because we got to see a lot of other things. So everybody had a great time. They couldn't believe it was over already, and typical responses of how great it was and how exciting it was and what they learned. And that's the most important thing. Information is power, and that's why we do that class.
So we offer to our community members, and if they're interested, session starts up again in September?
September 14th through October 30th.
On which night of the week?
It's 7 consecutive Thursday evenings, and then graduation will be on Wednesday the 30th because the 31st is Halloween. So I kind of just made it go on Wednesday night for graduation. So so fall session. So if you're interested, please call me, go online, get an application, send it in, because I have several applications on file, and we know it's first come, first serve, and it fills up really quick.
Yeah, so if you're interested, please apply.
Yes.
So, summer months, and of course it gets a little quieter around here, although some summers has been just as active as any other part of the year, but we just be careful. School's out, kids in the street, please be careful.
Swimming issues, pool issues, make sure you're watching the kids, and bikes and all that other stuff.
Some great reminders. So we have a really fun program today, I think, because we're going to talk about
zoo with us.
We have not the whole zoo, but
part
of the zoo.
Part of the zoo.
We're not talking about the officers. We're talking about the
animals.
Yeah, let's be clear on that. So but they're really kind of exciting because these gentlemen that are with us today and the folks that work with them, quite frankly, do a lion's share of the work when it comes to building searches or looking for suspects or helping us find lost children or any lost person for that matter.
Drug detection, bomb detection. I mean, they're just so versatile and so necessary. And
they save lives.
Absolutely.
Which is fabulous. So we're really honored to have you gentlemen here with us today. We're going to talk a little about the K9 unit. And I'll start off by introducing Nate Mullins, who's our supervisor of the K9 unit. Welcome back, Nate. How are you? Nate's been a guest here before. Thanks again for being here today. So I'll ask you to introduce your staff. But before we start with them, I want to talk a little about you and your career as a police officer here in Scottsdale.
So I started in '06, so I've got almost 14 years on here in the department. I started obviously like everybody on patrol. I worked patrol for a long time, and I promoted a little earlier probably than most people do, but I hadn't gone a lot of other places. But the one benefit I had is I had been on the SWAT team for about 10 years. And so that was what kind of allowed me to come over here to K9 once it opened up. So I always had an interest in it and was very excited to be able to be over here and work with the dogs.
And you actually promoted into, or actually moved into the position after I guess a promotion of the last supervisor in the unit, who was long-term K9 officer, Chris Coffey.
Lieutenant Coffey.
Yeah,
for sure.
Which is kind of cool. Yeah. So we've had a lot of stability in that unit, which is great. So thank you again for your leadership. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the gentleman that are with you?
I'll tell you a little bit about them. I'll let them talk as well. Officer Sanborn, and how many years you been with the K9 unit?
9 years now.
9 years now. And then Officer Blackwell, and we have his partner here as well. How long have you been in the K9 unit, Dan?
I've been in the K9 unit for 12 years.
12 years.
Okay.
And this is Castro. He's 8.5, and I've had him for about 5 years.
Tony, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So I started in '04, so I'm coming up on my 15th year here now. Worked patrol mostly in District 2 and now District 3, and carried all the different acronyms I think that you could have on patrol with GLO and FTO and a couple other O's.
Okay, and, stop, because they'll have no idea what you're talking about. So you have to spell that out.
Field training officer.
Gang liaison officer, narcotics trained officer.
Perfect.
A couple other O's.
Layman terms.
The whole alphabet.
Yeah, that's right. And then came to the K9 unit in 2010.
Okay.
That's great.
Danny?
So I started in 2000 in patrol. I worked in patrol until 2007 when I came to the K9 unit, and I've loved it ever since.
Very cool. Well, we're really excited to have you guys here. You're just now coming off of a pretty cool event, and we're going to show some video of that, hopefully.
Yep.
Which you were, Anthony, you're like really I guess, a primary planner for this event. And I got to tell you, I was at the first event 17 years ago. I was very, very impressed with it then. It was much smaller. It had the same footprint actually, because I think we were at the stadium, but it was a much smaller event. But now the event, 17 years later, has come back to Scottsdale, which I'm really, really happy to hear, and hopefully you'll stay here for a couple of years. But it's grown tremendously. The number of vendors that you had, the number of people offering services, even to home pet services were located there. Also, police equipment for those officers that may be involved in law enforcement and in K9 units. But there was a lot, and there's other kinds of services there as well. Credit unions were there, I saw, and some other things.
Yeah, and it's free for our citizens to come and watch the dogs work. It's really kind of a cool event. It doesn't even charge you anything, great for the kids and the family.
Right, and it was a 2-day event, so it went over the entire weekend, which was kind of cool. And you got some great coverage, I thought, on the news as I was watching the news in the morning, getting ready to come down. So tell us a little bit about that, because you sort of like the mastermind, at least this year's event.
Yeah, I drew the short straw, and I was able to be the lead planner this year.
You missed a meeting.
Yeah,
that's
right. I got volunteered, no. So I'm the vice president for the state K9 Association, and so part of what that association is about is putting that K9 trials on, and it's become much larger than what it started as you mentioned, and I think we had over 5, maybe close to 6,000 people attend over the weekend.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. Obviously a great time of year to have it, so it was nice to be back at Scottsdale Stadium. Over 50 vendors, like you said, mixed between law enforcement equipment, who were more law enforcement focused. We had military there, where I think National Guard was out. We had the static display demos with our own SWAT team that came out, which we really appreciated, and they did a live demo on the field on Saturday as well. So it was just a really good event. It's always a huge hit, and the feedback from our social media through ALICA, through the state association, was extremely positive. Everybody's really excited they were back in Scottsdale and wanted to stay there. The crowd was saying that.
And can you just explain for those people that don't know what we're talking about, the K9 trials means what?
It's a competition, and it's open actually to the entire nation and beyond. We have Baja Mexico that comes up every year, so we always like to brag that it's an international event. So Baja Mexico comes up, usually brings 2 or 3 teams, and they do very well. But this year we had otherwise just state of Arizona teams. Happened to coincide with some other events in the other states, but normally we would have California, New Mexico, Utah, Idaho has come down in the past. So it's more like a Western region event. But 55 teams competed this year. The event you see on the field is different Saturday and Sunday. It's 2 different events, but that is for a trophy. And then we had the banquet on Sunday night where we hand out awards, and Scottsdale did very well. Brent Patterson placed first in one of the field events from Sunday's event. That the public was able to watch, and he got first place there, so really good.
Yay, Brett, good job.
Yep.
And a lot of our teams didn't participate because we were behind the scenes working the events.
That's right. When you host it in our city, it becomes a tremendous amount of work for our department. So big thanks to our chief, first and foremost, to allow us to put so much effort into that to make it a great event and give us the manpower to do that. But it's a very, very big event and very hard to put on. It's a lot of moving pieces.
No, it was my pleasure, and I was very, very proud of what I saw. And what you guys have been doing in between the first year and the 17th year has just been tremendous.
Yes, sir.
And it was a great way to celebrate yourselves, test each other, get together for some camaraderie. A little competition is always fun amongst officers. And I had the pleasure of attending the banquet at the end at the award ceremony, and everybody was cheering for everybody regardless of whether it was their own personal team. Everybody was cheering each other on. It's just an amazing group of people.
Can you just tell us a little bit about the competition? Like, what are the events, and what do obviously it has to do with the dogs and the handler, but what are some of the events?
Sure. So the 2 events on the field, one is called Handler Protection, and the other one is Tactical Challenge. Essentially, what you'll see on the field, if you're the public and you're in attendance, is the dogs, everything the public loves to see. It's the dogs flying through the air, jumping, biting, releasing, hopefully on command, coming back, jumping into vehicles, running through strange obstacles that we've created for them just to test their courage and put their courage on display. And then off field, what you don't see is building search, area search, tactical obedience event. There's detection, so you'll have the EOD competition for all the bomb dogs to compete. And then there's a narcotics competition as well for the narcotics detection dogs.
Yeah,
cool.
Pretty impressive. So one of the last things I want to talk about when I talk about this particular event is that you did something very, very special this year. And I think it came about as a result of someone who is actually a member of the Goodyear Police Department. Am I correct about that?
Yes.
It was a connection there. There was a young man, and I'm not too sure I understand exactly what the issue was, but it was sort of a Make-A-Wish, although it wasn't part of the Make-A-Wish program, that he wanted to be a K9 officer for a day. And you guys literally flew him in by helicopter and then drove him in to the field, and then he, of course, came into the field on his wheelchair, which was pretty phenomenal. And so I just want to, my hat's off to you, but maybe give a little background of what you were doing and what you were achieving.
You know, that was really incredible to see how everybody stepped up when that was first posed to the association. So it's now has, Colin is the name of the boy, and that will be a reoccurring event every year. We'll do that for a young man or a young lady who is dealing with some sort of an ailment or medical issue. So in Colin's case, he has a brain tumor, and he's been fighting very bravely for the past couple of years, but the Glendale officer happened to know his family. He loves police officers in general, but has a particular place in his heart for K9 officers. And so when he met the Goodyear officer, they immediately had this connection, and he started showing him some of what they do, and it just makes the kid light up. And that was what they really noticed. The parents noticed more than anything, is when he talks about K9 officers, it really brings him to life and makes him feel very happy. And since he's had some of his surgeries, that's been an issue for him because it is brain surgery and it's affecting his emotions. And so they wanted to just have him out for a day and hang out at the event. And once we posed it to the membership, it just took off. Everybody had a different idea of how to make it more special, how to take it to another level. So like you mentioned, we started off by picking him up at, I believe it was Glendale Airport over on the west side with Mace's helicopter. And this is where we love the good camaraderie we have, like we talked about earlier. Our association is made up from every officer throughout the state, and so everybody pitched in. So Mace's helicopter picked him up over in Glendale, flew him over to Honor Health's landing pad up top. He then took some photos there, where he then was shuttled down to the ground level. He was put into Goodyear's Bearcat, and as I recall, I think they were doing, or I could hear from the stadium, I think they were doing some hot laps in the Bearcat around the city. So if you were near the city Saturday morning, that's what was going on with their Bearcat, but showed him a good time in the Bearcat, brought him back out to center field, where he jumped into one of the Goodyear Police K9 cars. They drove all the way down to the field level, and we were able to get him a uniform from one of the vendors, the uniform vendors, so a personalized one just for him.
He looked great.
All the equipment that he ever needed was all donated as well. Got him patches and badges from every agency that was in attendance. And once he got to field level, Chief, you were nice enough to swear him in, make him chief for a day, give him a very nice Chief's hat that he was able to wear, and then he started the whole event off and basically got the ceremony through a ceremonial first dog, almost like a first pitch. But he sent the first dog for an apprehension.
Oh,
and
that's
so,
amazing.
Yeah, very cool.
And if you could see his face when he was upstairs in the VIP area where he hung out for the day, he was ear to ear with a smile. He was very excited, very
That's
happy.
cool.
I noticed a big difference from the first times I had to meet him on the field. He was overwhelmed. I mean, there was so much going on. But by the end of the afternoon, when I saw him later and said goodbye to him, he was just all smiles and he was all in. I mean, it was really amazing, the transformation. And it was, I only one bone to pick with this young man is that I told him, you got to do my paperwork. I got back to the office on Monday and nothing was done. So he's acting just like a real chief.
Yeah, he was acting like a real chief.
Yeah, so hopefully we hear good news about him in the
I hope
future.
so.
But thank you guys for doing that so much. And thank you for allowing me to be part of that, to be honest with you. You didn't have to do that, but I really enjoyed that very much. It was quite an honor. So thanks. So Danny, tell us about your partner a little bit here, because he looks like he wants to be on camera.
Yep, this is Castro. He's an 8.5-year-old Belgian Malinois. I've had him for about 5 years, so I got him when he was about 3.5. He was raised and trained in Holland, so all of his commands are in Dutch. Not to be tricky to the criminals, just because that's what they speak, so that's what his commands are in. And he's a patrol dog, so he searches businesses, buildings, areas, works with the SWAT team, and then he's also our narcotic detection dog.
Cool.
So we work with other units finding drugs.
And I know, Officer Blackwell, you have come to Citizens Academy several times as well. I know you too, Sarge. So we really appreciate it. And that's one of the things that you get to see on Citizens Academy is our dogs. That's a specialty unit that comes in to explain all about the unit and the dogs and how we utilize them on the department.
So how many K9 do we have total?
Currently we have 6 K9 teams. 4 of them are narcotic trained, so they're all dual purpose. So they all will search for bad guys. They do patrol work, is what we would call it, and then all of them have a detection specialty. So the 4 are narcotic trained, and then there's 2 that we have that are EOD or bomb or explosive trained, basically. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, you do kind of don't want the bomb dogs to be drug dogs, right? Because but if you come to Citizens Academy, you will understand why. We'll keep that as kind of a secret until they come into Citizens Academy. Then they'll learn the secrets.
That's called the hook.
That was a hook to get them in.
Right.
And Officer Sanborn, what is your dog's name, and how long have you had him?
So my dog is Jarl. I've had him now for 4 or 5 months. So we just got him from Holland. He's the newest dog in the unit.
The baby, he's the puppy.
He's the youngster, yeah. He's doing great. He's a fantastic dog, and we're really, really happy with him. He's looking good.
Is he your second dog?
He'd be my 3rd now.
He's your 3rd dog. What happens to the dogs after they retire? Can you kind of explain that, maybe?
They almost always go to the handler. So we have first right of refusal, and the city is nice enough to sign them over to us at no cost, and we take them basically into their retirement years and give them a happy, restful life at home with their families, where they can, like in Raider's case, my first dog, who's still alive and has been retired for some time, he gets to hang out with the kids and my wife and sit by the pool and lay on the couch. And
well, he earned it, right? He
sure
gets
did.
retirement.
So what's a career for one of our service animals? What does it last?
They usually last, so right around 5 years is how long we'll have them in service. We get them anywhere from 2 to 3 years old, and then they'll 5 to 6 years, because the 9 years is about the time we look at maybe retiring the dogs. And it always depends on health issues and things like that, because just in for example, in Raider's case, how old was he when we retired him?
he was 4.
He was 4. So because of a medical issue, we had to ended up having to retire Raider. So there have been other times when we've done it earlier, but typically they'll get to about 9 years old before we'll retire them.
And doesn't that have a lot to do with like our heat issues here and some other things that maybe other cities don't have to deal with? I mean, does heat have any kind of issues with the dogs?
Sometimes. In Raider's case, that was exactly it. They cool themselves down with some flaps, some laryngeal flaps that are in their throat, and one of them was paralyzed, and so he couldn't cool himself down enough to continue to work. Although he had the drive and still does have the drive to work, he wasn't able to work in the heat anymore.
And I think we have a female dog, don't we? I mean, the very first, right?
We do.
Hey,
So my dog Hannah, she'll be turning 7 years old this year. She is our first female. She's a little ball of fire. If you'd seen her before, I think she's been on the show before. She'd be in here running around all crazy. But yeah, she's very fun to work with. And again, she's explosive trained, so different than Officer Sanborn and Officer Blackwell's dogs. She actually detects explosives. So.
I think we have to, again, remind people that as much fun as this looks, this is dangerous business. And these animals do go into harm's way on behalf of the community and on behalf of the officers on the scenes. This is serious business. And so we really appreciate the fact that they're so well trained and so well behaved and so willing to participate in those activities. And so I know we try to make it fun for them, so it's a fun thing, it's rewards, but at the same time, it's serious business.
Right. And thank goodness that we do have them, because they have protected so many civilian lives as well as the officer lives. If you have to go search a building, right, Sarge, I'm sure you're better versed at it than I. Tell the audience what the difference is of having a dog search a building, a large building, or how many officers it would take to do that, and the manpower and the time and effort.
Yeah, good question. So it does lessen the manpower quite a bit, because when we use the dog, we're able to actually just hold certain areas with a smaller team and let the dog go and search different areas. And what basically we're hoping, we obviously we don't want to put them in harm's way if we don't have to, but we're looking to save lives, to save the officers' lives as well. And a lot of times what they're able to do is detect the person way before we will. They've got that big strong nose, and they can find that person way before we would be able to see them with our eyes. And so they'll go in and they can actually thwart what we would think would be maybe an ambush, right? So if somebody's hiding in a building, a burglar, and they're waiting to ambush us, that's what we're hoping. We're hoping that our dogs will be able to take away that opportunity for them to ambush us.
And at the same time, you can send the dog in to find a child, and the dog will find the missing person, the missing child, and not be aggressive, right? Identify.
We can use them. It's a little different tactic, but sure, yeah, we could use them to air scent and try and find somebody if they were lost, and yeah, for sure.
Pretty phenomenal animals.
So what would be the most, I know you do a lot of education with the youth as well. I know you do, a lot of people, as being the public education officer, people are always calling me, can we have the dogs, can we have the horses, can the SWAT team come over? Well, we have some limitations, but I know you do a lot of education with the school kids and stuff as well. Do they ever do any kind of searches within the school systems as well? You work closely with the SROs?
We have. So with all the scares with fentanyl and things, everybody's worried about drugs being in the schools. We've been asked by different administrations to come in and do searches in schools. And of course, we have had several instances where there's been threats, and we've had to come in with our EOD dogs. And in that time, we lean a lot on the community, the canine community, which we're pretty close. And we bring a lot of dogs in to come and search a school to make sure that it's safe for students to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we protect our animals with fentanyl being extremely dangerous? And of course, them using the scent of smell more than anything else. How do we protect them?
Well, first and foremost, we're trying, if we can see it and we can identify a powder or something first, we try to keep them away from it. If we can already see it, there's no need to put them up right on top of it. But if we do have an accidental exposure, each one of us carries Narcan with us. And we've actually been doing that for a really long time. We've had it in these kits that our vet has for us. And each officer actually carries it as well. That was part of one of the programs you put together, Chief, that each one of us has some on us as well, and that will actually work for the dogs as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Which I find fascinating, because I have told people that, and they say, really, it works for animals, but of course it does.
Yes.
Which is great.
And then
We've been fortunate to never have to use
Oh
it,
my
though, right?
gosh,
We've never
yeah.
had that
we
experience.
haven't had to yet.
And then don't you guys do like dignitary stuff as well? I mean, haven't there been events, well, you know, with us, our city being a premier city for the Super Bowl or the Open and stuff.
Oh,
so
lots
you
of
guys
presidential
do a
visits.
lot, and we do have a lot of dignitaries come in, so they also play a role in that as well, correct?
Right. So usually when like an entourage comes in, we'll have like all of their the motorcade that will come in, and we'll go and sweep all the vehicles in the motorcade. It's just part of their protocols. Go to the hotels where they're staying and do sweeps of the hotels as well. And so, yeah, there are definitely some good uses that we've had over the last year. Quite a few with different dignitaries that have come in.
Mm-hmm.
You did mention one thing that I'm very proud of as well, is that in Arizona we do work extremely well together with other agencies, and I think it's most significant at your level in terms of the things that you have to do with K9s that tire after a while. If you to send a bomb detection, explosive detection dog into an environment, they can only work for so long before they need to be replaced or relieved, I guess, for a short while they rest. And so it's really great that we have those relationships, because whenever we have an issue anywhere in the valley, we can always call on other law enforcement agencies. They're going to come here pretty quick, because we're going to go to them rather quickly. We couldn't put on the Open and some of our larger events without the assistance and support of other agencies around the valley. And so when people see them in our jurisdiction, they wonder, wow, what are they doing over here? Oftentimes it's just to either supplement or support us in our needs. And so I'm really happy to hear that, because I always knew it was true, but it's great to be able to tell the audience that we get a lot of support, especially with this unit. You give support to others, and then we get support back from others.
So give us some of the highlights of some of the coolest stuff. I know you do a lot of show and tell too. Do you go to the schools, Officer Blackwell? And most people think that they want to pet the dog and everything too, but can we just kind of give some precautionary things when they see a canine dog, and that it isn't just a puppy on the street? You shouldn't even be touching any dogs on the street because you don't know about the animal, but I'm sure there's some protocols that go with, you know, when you go do show and tell.
There are, and that's the great thing about having a dog with a disposition like Castro and Jaro also. They've been raised in a social environment with kids and other animals and things like that. So we are able to take them to a school, do the show and tell, explain what the dog's doing, and in some cases we let them pet the dog also. So it is really nice.
It's kind of fun. I'm hoping our audience is seeing that the dogs are not the vicious thing that they, you know, that have the perception of being. So it's kind of nice to see that, you know, most people have a perception of a dog that does what they do. And to see that there is a different side of them. It's more of a play. Orsini knows I'm talking about him, doesn't he? But that is probably an issue, and I'm sure a lot of people ask you that, don't they?
Oh, they certainly do, yes. They we ask people just to come up to us first and check with us before they start saying hello to the dog. But yeah, with having social dogs, it's very nice to be able to let the public interact, because it is what they want to do most, is just reach down and pet them. They think of it like any other dog they have at home. And they obviously are working animals.
So when they come to us, are they social when they come to us, or we have to socialize them?
We've worked hard to improve our selection process
Okay.
with the dogs to ensure that we have the right balance of dog now that can be social. That's one of the things we look for. We found that we can have dogs that are great working dogs that also have that social ability, which is sort of a change in some of the theories behind working dogs in the past 10 to 15 years, where they didn't think they could have that social ability. We found we have dogs that are very social and also great working dogs.
He's not wearing a vest, but we have vests for our K9, right?
We do.
All of our working animals. When are they appropriately placed in a vest, and when are they left like this?
So, because it's hot, because we're in Arizona, obviously we don't run them in the vest all the time. It would be very hot and difficult for them to work in those conditions. But if we do suspect that there's going to be a gun, that the suspect is armed with a firearm, and like I said before, we're going to try and use every option before we send the dog in. But if we have to send the dog in, we know that there's possibly a gun in play. We do have ballistic vests we can put on the dogs that will that could provide protection for them.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, I want to thank the three of you very much for so many things. First of all, what you do on a regular basis for the Scottsdale community and the Scottsdale Police Department, as well as occasionally when you're called into service in other departments. Just thank you so much for all of that. And thank your partners, of course, but he doesn't seem to be too impressed with me. but I do want to thank you for that.
This is your boss.
Yeah,
You need to know this is the man.
He's not
this
impressed.
is the
It's like my kids. I got my kids visiting with me. Anyway, but I do want to say thank you for that.
Thank
But
you guys
and I
for
want to
coming.
thank you for putting on what I thought was a very first class, because it's just been recent, first class event. You can all be very, very proud of that. Anthony, again, the work that you did behind the scenes to make it happen, and the support that you were given. Thank you so much for that. I was very, very proud to be part of law enforcement in itself, but certainly part of the organization the other day. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, appreciate you being here. Be safe. Thanks for being our guests, and that pretty much completes another program for us.
Another month's gone. So
Thank you.
simple.
Thank you all for being here. Between now and the next time we see you, be safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.